At 2:47 in the morning, Jack Donovan's fist slammed straight through the drywall. His little girl was asleep upstairs. His Navy dog tag still hung around his neck. And on the other side of that broken wall stood Dr. Leah Bennett, the gynecologist from next door, holding an envelope sealed with the Johns Hopkins crest, her hands shaking. "Jack," she whispered, "after I tell you this, you might never want to see me again. Before I reveal what was inside that envelope, drop the name of your city in the comments so I know how far this story has reached. And if love, sacrifice, and second chances hit different at our age, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what comes next is going to break your heart before it puts it back together." 6 months earlier, the moving truck pulled off Prescott Street and left Jack Donovan standing in the middle of an empty living room with a cardboard box in his hands and absolutely no idea where he'd packed the scissors. "Daddy!" Maya's voice came down from the top of the stairs. 6 years old, dark hair tangled from the 10-hour drive, still wearing the pink sneakers he'd let her pick out at a Target back in Norfolk, Virginia. "Yeah, sweet pea." "There's no toilet paper." Jack closed his eyes and let out a long, slow breath. 22 years in the United States Navy, 2 tours in the Gulf, 1 divorce that nearly killed him. And here he was at 46 years old, defeated by a missing roll of toilet paper. "I got you, baby. I'll run to the store." "Can I come?" "Not tonight, kiddo. It's past 8. How about I grab some, and when I get back we'll order pizza and eat it right there on the floor, like we used to at Grandma's." On the floor. On the floor. Maya grinned that same crooked smile her mother used to have back before everything fell apart and disappeared into her room. Jack set the box down on the counter. He stood there for a second alone in a house that didn't yet smell like anything. Not like his wife's coffee. Not like his ship's oil. Not like anything. Just paint and cardboard and the ghost of whoever had lived here before him. He was rebuilding. That's what his older brother Danny out in Phoenix kept telling him on the phone. "You're rebuilding, Jack. Give yourself time." Jack didn't have time. Jack had a 6-year-old upstairs who cried in her sleep sometimes and didn't know why, and who'd asked him the day the papers came through, "Daddy, did Mommy stop loving me too?" And Jack had gotten down on his knees in the kitchen and held her face in his hands and said, "Your mother loves you more than anything in this world, baby. This isn't about you. This is a grown-up problem." He hadn't known if he was telling the truth. He was just a man trying to stitch the wound closed before his daughter bled out. He grabbed his keys off the counter and walked out to the truck. Sure. The Food Lion on Savannah Highway was 12 minutes away. He bought toilet paper, milk bread, peanut butter, and because he was that kind of tired of frozen pepperoni pizza in case delivery took too long, the radio on the drive home played something country and mournful, and he let it. Jack had never been much of a talker. After Claire had sat him down at the kitchen table and told him flat as a weather report that she'd met somebody else, a civilian contractor, a guy who came home every night, Jack had learned how to be even quieter. He didn't blame her. That was the hardest part. What he blamed himself for was Maya. He'd fought for full custody, hired a lawyer he couldn't afford, stood in front of a judge, an older woman who'd looked at him over her reading glasses like she'd seen 100 men just like him, all of them broken in the same quiet way, and the judge had given him primary. "Mr. Donovan," she'd said, "you strike me as a man who shows up. Don't make me regret that." So here he was, showing up, Charleston, South Carolina. A 2-bedroom bungalow on Prescott Street on a block full of oak trees and porch lights and retired folks who waved at strangers from their driveways. Showing up with a busted marriage behind him, a little girl upstairs, and a truck full of boxes he didn't know how to unpack. He parked crooked in the driveway, something he never would have done on a base, and carried the grocery bags up the front walk. That's when he heard the crying. It wasn't loud. It was the kind of crying you make when you don't want anyone to hear you. Soft, hitching, exhausted. It was coming from the porch next door. Jack froze with his hand on his doorknob. He was a private man. He'd learned the hard way that minding other people's business rarely ended well. In the Navy, you stayed in your lane. You did your job. You went home. But something about the way her shoulders shook made him set the grocery bags down on his own welcome mat and walk across the strip of grass between their porches. "Ma'am?" She didn't look up. He cleared his throat. "Ma'am, is there anything I can do?" She lifted her head, and Jack, who'd looked at a lot of tired faces in a lot of dark places in his life, thought he'd never seen anybody quite this wrung out. Dark hair pulled back in a ponytail that had come loose at the sides. Green hospital scrubs. White sneakers stained at the toes with something that might have been blood. A stethoscope coiled beside her on the step, like a snake too tired to move. Eyes red-rimmed and swollen, but not empty. There was steel in them, the kind you earned. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her face with the back of her wrist. "I didn't realize anyone was... I thought the house was still empty." "Moved in this afternoon." "Oh." She let out a short breath. "Welcome to the street. Jack Donovan." He held out a hand across the step. "My little girl Maya's inside. She's 6. Fair warning, she'll know your whole life story by this time tomorrow." The woman laughed. It came out cracked, startled, like she hadn't used that part of her face in a while. "Leah Bennett." She shook his hand. Her fingers were cold as ice. "I live here, obviously." "Long day." Her eyes glassed over again. She blinked it back fast like a soldier. "You could say that." Jack nodded. He knew that look. That was the look of somebody who didn't want to talk about it because if they started, they wouldn't stop. "Well," he said, "I was just about to heat up a frozen pizza for Maya. You want to join us? Might beat whatever's in your fridge." Leah blinked at him. "You don't even know me." "That's usually how neighbors work, ma'am. You meet 'em, then you know 'em." The corner of her mouth lifted. Just a little. Just enough. "I can't. I appreciate it, I really do. But I've been on my feet for 13 hours, and if I try to eat right now, I'll fall asleep at your table." "Another time, then?" "Another time." She stood up. Her knees popped audibly, and she winced. Jack was halfway back to his own door when she said behind him, "Mr. Donovan?" "Jack." "Jack." She paused. "Thank you." "I didn't do anything." "You stopped." And then she went inside. Chateau. Maya was asleep on the couch by the time the pizza came out of the oven. Jack stood in the doorway holding a paper plate, watching his daughter breathe. She looked so much like her mother that sometimes it hurt to look at her. He set the plate down on the counter. He wasn't hungry anymore. Instead, he walked out to the screened-in back porch, the one with the old rocking chair the previous owner had left behind, and he sat down and he looked at the sky. Charleston stars. Soft. Hazy. Nothing like the stars you saw from the deck of a carrier at 3 in the morning in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where the dark went on forever, and you could see the whole Milky Way cut across the night like a scar. But they were something. He thought about the woman next door. He thought about that look in her eyes. He'd seen it in the mirror. So, the next morning, Jack burned the pancakes. "Daddy, it's black. It's extra crispy." "Daddy, it's black." "Okay, fine. It's black. Cereal." "Cereal." He was pouring Maya a bowl of Cheerios when someone knocked on the front door. 3 quick, polite knocks. He opened it. Leah Bennett stood on his porch holding a casserole dish wrapped in aluminum foil. She'd showered, changed into jeans and a soft gray sweater. Her hair was down, and she looked like a completely different person from the woman on the step. Well, almost. The tired was still there. Couldn't shower that off. "I felt bad about last night," she said. "You didn't need to feel bad." "My mother's egg casserole. She used to make it every Sunday when I was a kid. Welcome to Prescott Street." He took it. It was still warm. "You didn't have to do this, Leah." "I know." A small silence. "Daddy, who is it?" Maya shouted from the kitchen. "It's our neighbor baby girl." "Can she come in?" Leah laughed. "Is that okay?" "Ma'am, I don't think I could stop her at this point." He held the door open. Then, Maya took to Leah the way some kids take to puppies. Instantly. without permission. Within 5 minutes, she was sitting in Laya's lap at the kitchen counter, showing her a drawing she'd made on the drive down from Norfolk, a picture of a little blue house with 3 windows, a big yellow sun, and 3 stick figures labeled, "Daddy, Me," and beside them, a smaller figure that just said, "Who's the question mark?" Laya asked, tracing it with her finger. "I don't know yet," Maya said, serious as a judge. "I haven't met them." Jack, leaning against the refrigerator with a cup of coffee in his hand, felt something catch in his throat. Laya looked up at him over the top of Maya's head, and for half a second, just half their eyes locked. Then she looked back down at the drawing. "Well, honey, whoever they are, they're going to be real lucky to land in your house." She stayed 20 minutes. She had to get to the hospital. "What do you do?" Jack asked her at the door. "OBGYN, Medical University of South Carolina." "That's a long shift kind of job." "Yeah, it's a long shift kind of job." "And you?" she asked. "Navy, 22 years, retired 3 weeks ago. I'm still figuring out what civilians do on Wednesdays." 22 years, she repeated. "That's a long shift too." He smiled. It surprised him how easy it was. "Yeah," he said. "I guess it was." She stepped out onto the porch, then turned around. "Jack." "Yeah. If Maya ever gets sick, or if you need anything, I'm right there." She pointed at her own front door 6 feet away. "I mean it. I'm a doctor. I'm a neighbor. I'm right there." "Thank you." "Anytime." And she was gone. That night, after Maya was asleep, Jack sat on the back porch with his phone in his hand and almost called Danny in Phoenix. He didn't in the end. Because what was he going to say? "Hey, Danny. The lady next door brought me a casserole. Hey, Danny. I haven't felt my own pulse in 2 years, and tonight for about 9 seconds, I think I felt it again." He put the phone away. He went to bed. He didn't sleep much. The weeks rolled. Charleston heat came on early. Jack's VA paperwork went through. Then an old buddy from his last ship called and said he might have something steady at the shipyard welding inspector part-time benefits if Jack could wait a few weeks. Jack could wait. He took Maya to White Point Garden. He grilled hot dogs in the backyard. He learned how to braid her hair by watching YouTube videos on his phone at midnight, over and over with the sound off, so he wouldn't wake her up. The first morning he got it right, a real French braid, the kind Claire used to do. Maya looked at herself in the bathroom mirror, touched it with her little fingers and said, "Daddy, you did it," in a voice so full of wonder that Jack had to turn around and pretend he was looking for his coffee mug. He cried over a coffee mug, quietly, with his back to his daughter, like a sailor. And Laya became part of it, slowly. A casserole here, a bag of oranges from the Saturday farmer's market there. The night Maya threw up at 1 a.m, and Jack, panicking because Claire had always been the one who handled the throwing up, walked across the dewy grass in his bare feet and pounded on Leia's door. And Leia answered in pajamas, hair wild, no questions asked, grabbed a little medical bag and followed him back across the yard. Sat on the edge of Maya's bed, with her palm on Maya's forehead. Said, in a voice calmer than any voice Jack had ever heard in his life, "It's just a little stomach bug, sweetheart. You're going to be fine by morning, I promise." Maya believed her, went back to sleep like somebody had flipped a switch. Afterward, Leia stood in Jack's kitchen at 2 a.m. in pajamas, drinking a glass of tap water. "You know," Jack said, "I was about 8 seconds from dialing 911. "I could tell." "Thank you." "Jack?" "Yeah. When's the last time you had a full night of sleep?" He thought about it. "I don't remember." She looked at him for a long moment. "Yeah," she said softly. "Me neither." There was nothing between them. That's what they both kept telling themselves. There was a single father and his little girl, and there was a gynecologist next door who worked weird hours, and they were friends. Maybe good friends. Maybe the kind of good friends who leave porch lights on for each other and check each other's mail when one of them was working a double, and who sometimes on Sunday afternoons when Charleston got lazy and the cicadas came out ended up sitting side by side on the front steps, drinking sweet tea, while Maya drew chalk hopscotch in the driveway. Nothing more. Jack told himself that. Leia told herself that. And then one Tuesday evening, it always seemed to be a Tuesday. Jack looked up from flipping burgers on his little backyard grill and saw Leia coming around the side of the house, still in scrubs, straight from the hospital, her hair coming loose, a bottle of wine in her hand. "I lost a patient today," she said by way of hello. Jack put down the spatula. "Sit down." She sat. She didn't cry this time. She'd already done the crying somewhere, probably in her car in the parking garage, forehead against the steering wheel, the way people did. He didn't ask about it. You didn't ask somebody about a loss like that. You let them come to it. She came to it after the second glass. She was 28, Jack. It's a rare complication. I've only seen it once in training. And her husband was in the waiting room, and I had to walk out there and—" She stopped. Jack reached across the patio table and put his hand over hers. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. He just kept his hand there. After a long time, she turned her hand over and she laced her fingers through his, and she did not let go. The burgers burned. Neither of them moved. That was the night something shifted. Jack felt it the way he'd felt the deck of an aircraft carrier shift under his feet in a storm once off the coast of Yemen. 1 second you were standing. The next second the whole world was tilting, and you either grabbed hold of something or you fell. He grabbed hold. He didn't say it out loud. Neither did she. But he grabbed hold. And when Leia stood to leave that night, when she walked to the edge of his yard and turned around under the porch light with the empty bottle in her hand, and said, "Thank you, Jack," he said, "Anytime." And he meant it like a vow done. Later, when he was lying on his back in bed, staring at a ceiling he still didn't recognize as his own, Jack Donovan thought about the woman next door. He thought about the way she'd said, "Thank you. You stopped." He thought about his daughter's drawing and the little question mark stick figure, and the way Maya had said, "I haven't met them yet." He thought about a lot of things. He did not think, not even once, about an envelope with a John Hopkins seal, because he didn't know yet that one existed. He did not think about a man named Dr. Richard Bennett, a man he had never met, a man sitting that very night in a leather chair in a glass office in Baltimore, writing a letter that would try to drag his daughter out of Charleston and away from a retired Navy chief on Prescott Street, and a 6-year-old girl who had drawn a question mark and was quietly, without anyone noticing, already filling in the shape of her answer. He didn't know any of it. That Tuesday night in a dark bedroom in a house that was finally starting to feel like his, Jack Donovan only knew this. For the first time in a very, very long time, he was not alone. And he thought, God help him, he actually let himself think it. Maybe this is how the second half of a man's life begins. The next morning, Jack Donovan made pancakes that didn't burn. Maya noticed before he did. "Daddy, these are yellow. That's the color they're supposed to be, sweet pea. They were black last time." "Yeah, well, last time Daddy was feeling sorry for himself." Maya chewed a bite, slowly studying him. She had a way of doing that, a way of looking right through him, the way her mother used to. Except Claire had used it like a weapon, and Maya used it like she was trying to understand. "Daddy, why are you smiling?" "Am I smiling?" "You're smiling at the stove." Jack turned around, and sure enough, he caught his own reflection in the microwave glass, and there it was. A grown man, 46 years old, standing in his kitchen in a raggedy t-shirt, smiling at a skillet for no reason at all. "Eat your pancakes, baby girl." "Is it because of Miss Leia?" Jack's spatula paused halfway to the plate. "Where'd you get that from?" "She held your hand last night." "How do you know that?" "I came downstairs for water." Jack closed his eyes. There was no such thing as privacy when you lived with a 6-year-old. They were like tiny surveillance officers who worked without a warrant. "Maya, friends hold hands sometimes." "I know, Daddy." "All right then. I was just saying." She stabbed another piece of pancake. "She held it for a long time, though." Jack did not answer that. He poured her a glass of orange juice, set it down, and went to take a very long shower. That afternoon, when he walked out to the mailbox in bare feet, Leah was already standing at hers. "Morning," he called. "It's 3 o'clock, Jack." "Is it?" "You slept in." "I slept. Period. That's new." She laughed. She had a nice laugh when she let it happen, the kind that came up out of somewhere deep, reluctant and surprised at itself. She looked better today, less hollowed out. She was in a white t-shirt and jeans, holding a stack of envelopes against her chest. "Hey, listen," Jack said. "About last night." "Jack. No, hear me out. I don't want you to feel weird about—" "I don't." "You don't." "I don't." He stood there with his stack of junk mail in his hand and tried to think of something else to say and came up empty. "Okay," he finally managed. "Good. Because I didn't know if I was supposed to apologize or—" "Jack." "Yeah. Don't apologize to me, please. I've had enough apologies this week." Something about the way she said it made him pause. He looked at her more carefully. The morning had shaved a little of the softness off her face. There was something working underneath it, something she wasn't saying. "You all right, Doc?" "I'm fine." "You're doing that thing." "What thing?" "The thing where you say you're fine, and it means the opposite." She looked up at him, held his eyes for a beat too long. "My father called last night." "Oh. That good, huh?" She gave him a small, wry smile. "You know what, Jack? Let's talk about it another time." "All right. Maybe over dinner." He blinked. "Dinner. I cook on Sundays. I don't work Sundays. Well, I try not to. I usually fail. But this Sunday I'm not working, and I cook a pot roast that my grandmother taught me, and nobody eats it but me, and that's depressing. Sunday. Bring Maya, 6 o'clock. Laya. Jack. Is this what is this?" She tilted her head. "It's a pot roast, Jack." "Right. 6 o'clock. Pot roast. 6. Got it." She was already walking back up her front steps with her mail, and over her shoulder she said, "Bring your appetite, and maybe a bottle of wine. The cheap kind. I don't trust anybody who shows up with the expensive kind." That was a Saturday. Sunday came slower than any day Jack could remember in years. He spent the morning trying not to think about it, and the afternoon giving up and thinking about it the whole time. He got a haircut he didn't need. He ironed a shirt he hadn't ironed since his discharge ceremony. He stood in the mirror at 5:30 and talked to himself out loud like a man losing it. "It's a pot roast, Donovan. Stand down." At 6 on the dot, he knocked on Laya's door with Maya hanging off his other hand and a bottle of $10 Merlot in the crook of his elbow. Leah opened the door in jeans and a loose sweater and bare feet, and the house behind her smelled the way houses were supposed to smell, like garlic and onions, and something slow cooked. For a long time, the kind of smell that made a man's knees go weak. "You cut your hair," she said. Yeah, I needed a trim." "No, you didn't." "I did. It's nice." "Thank you." Maya pushed past both of them into the living room and announced without ceremony, "I like your house." "Well, I'm glad." "You have a fish." "That's Walter." "Walter the fish." "Walter the fish. That's a good name for a fish." "Thank you. I've had him a long time." "How long?" 7 years. Maya, who had the moral authority of a 6-year-old and the attention span of a 6-year-old, said, "That's a long time to be alone in a bowl." Jack choked on nothing. Leia's eyes cut over to him, sparkling. "Yes, sweetheart," she said, crouching down in front of Walter's bowl. "I guess it is." Dinner was slow. It was slow the way the best dinners are. The way meals used to be when Jack was a boy, before everyone ate at a stoplight with one hand on the wheel. Maya told Leah in excruciating detail about her new first-grade class at Meeting Street Elementary, and about a boy named Tyler who'd told her girls couldn't be astronauts, and how she'd corrected him in front of the entire class by listing 5 female astronauts off the top of her head. "Daddy taught me," she said proudly. "Is that so?" Leah asked. "He made me memorize them. He said men who tell women what they can't do are usually just scared, Miss Leia. Leia looked at Jack across the candlelight. You taught her that? I might have. Huh. Don't look at me like that. Like what? Like that. She was already looking down at her plate, hiding a smile. Maya fell asleep on the couch sometime around 8:30, with her head in Leia's lap, and her little hand curled into the fabric of Leia's sweater, the way kids do when they've decided you belong to them. Jack watched it from the other end of the couch with a glass of wine in his hand, and he thought, this is dangerous. This is dangerous what she's doing. What I'm letting her do. Because Maya had already lost one woman. And Jack had sworn when Claire left that he would never let his little girl get attached to someone who might leave her too. And here she was, asleep, in a gynecologist's lap. Jack. Yeah. You're thinking very loud over there. Sorry. Say it. Say what? Whatever you're thinking. You're giving me a headache. He took a long sip of wine. He set the glass down. She likes you. I like her. Yeah, I can see that. And that's the problem, Doc. Leia looked down at Maya's sleeping face for a long moment, smoothed her hair back behind her ear. Jack, I'm not going anywhere. You don't know that. Excuse me. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. I thought her mother wasn't going anywhere either. He didn't mean to say it like that. It came out sharper than he intended, the way things do at 10 o'clock at night, after 2 glasses of wine and a candle burned halfway down. Leia didn't flinch. She just looked at him. Jack? I'm sorry. It's all right. No, it isn't. You were being kind, and I just... Jack, listen to me. She was very quiet. I don't know what your wife did. I don't know what you've been through. I know enough of the shape of it to know that whatever it was, it broke you in a specific way, and you are putting yourself back together like a man who expects to drop the pieces. He did not know what to do with that. And I know, she went on, that a little girl fell asleep in my lap tonight. And I know I've been alive for 38 years, and I don't have any of my own, and that has been a quiet ache in me for a long, long time. And I'm not going to pretend that didn't just mean something to me, because it did. Leia. Let me finish. Okay. I'm not asking you for anything, Jack. I'm not staking a claim. I know this, whatever this is new and fragile, and it's got her in the middle of it, and that makes it 10 times more careful. I know that. I know that. She looked down at Maya again. But don't tell me I'm going anywhere. Because nobody's asked me where I'm going, and nobody's told me where to stand. I decide that. There was a long silence in the kitchen. Jack set his wine glass down on the coffee table, very carefully, like a man diffusing something. Your father called last night, he said. Her jaw tightened. Yeah. You want to tell me about it? Not really. Okay. He has opinions. About everything. Like how a woman my age should be further along. Further along in what? In everything, Jack. Further along in everything. Is he in medicine too? He's a cardiologist. Baltimore. He was the head of his department at a university hospital for 26 years. He retired last year, and now he has nothing to do except call his only daughter twice a week and rearrange her life for her. Ah. Yeah. What's he got against your life right now, if I can ask? Oh, where do I begin? She laughed, but not with any joy in it. The hours I work. The city I chose. The fact that I haven't been on a real date since 2019. The fact that I bought a house at 36 instead of saving for a better one at 40. The fact that my grandmother, his own mother, taught me to cook pot roast, and he thinks pot roast is, and I quote, sentimental peasant food. He said that about your grandmother's cooking. He said it about a lot of things from that part of his life. Jack was quiet. Leia. I think I would not like your father. Nobody does, Jack. That's not a controversial opinion. That's just Tuesday. She laughed again, and this time there was a little joy in it, the kind you scrape up off the bottom of a bad day. Jack carried Maya home over his shoulder a little after 10. Leah followed him to the door and tucked the blanket a little tighter around Maya's legs before he stepped into the yard. "Jack?" "Yeah. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having us. I mean it. Even when we argue." "We weren't arguing. We were arguing. That was a mild argument. You'd know if I was arguing." "Noted. Good night, Jack." "Good night, Doc." He walked across the dewy grass with his daughter asleep on his shoulder, and he felt for the second time in as many weeks that strange, dangerous, pulled out by the roots feeling of having grabbed hold of something in a storm. The weeks that followed were the closest thing to peace Jack Donovan had known since he was 25 years old. The shipyard job came through. Welding inspector part-time flexible hours right on the Cooper River. Jack drove out there in the mornings in his old truck with a travel mug of coffee and spent 6 hours walking the hulls of ships and writing up reports. And he came home to Maya at 2:30 every afternoon, and it was, God help him, it was good. Leah came over 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes for dinner, sometimes just for a glass of iced tea on the porch. One Saturday, Maya asked her if she knew how to French braid hair, for real, not the YouTube way. And Leah sat on the bathroom floor for 45 minutes teaching Maya's little fingers how to cross the strands. Jack watched them from the hallway. Maya had her head in Leah's lap facing the mirror. Leah's hands moved slow and careful through Maya's dark hair. And his daughter, his baby girl who'd lost her mother and moved across 2 states and slept in a new bedroom with new curtains, was laughing. Laughing the way she hadn't laughed in a year. Jack went back to the kitchen and pretended to do dishes. He had not cried in a kitchen this much in his entire life. He was going to have to stop doing that. It was unmanly. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe that was another thing he'd been wrong about his whole life. Then came the Thursday. Leah didn't come over. Jack noticed by 7 p.m. Ordinarily, if she was off shift, she'd wander over by 5:30 with a bottle of something or a pint of ice cream for Maya. When she wasn't off shift, she usually texted. Nothing. At 8:30, he walked Maya over to say goodnight. "Maybe she's sleeping, Daddy." "Maybe. Let's just check." He knocked twice. Waited. Knocked again. Leah opened the door. She didn't look right. She was in scrubs, still in scrubs, which meant she'd just gotten home and hadn't bothered to change, and her eyes were red and she was holding an envelope. A thick, cream-colored envelope. Jack's eyes dropped to it automatically. He caught a glimpse of a navy blue emblem in the top left corner. He couldn't read the whole thing in the porch light, but he saw the word Hopkins. Leah. "Hi, Jack. Is everything all right?" Yeah, sorry. Hi, Maya Bear." "Miss Leah, we brought you cookies." "You did. You brought me cookies." "Daddy made them, but I helped." "Those look incredible, sweetheart. Thank you." Leah crouched down and took the little plate, and kissed Maya on the top of her head, and Jack watched her do it, and he watched her face, and he knew. He didn't know what he knew, but he knew. "Maya, baby, can you go back to our porch for a second and wait for Daddy, just for a minute?" "But I wanted to tell her about the ladybug." "You can tell her about the ladybug tomorrow. Go on, sit on the step where I can see you." Maya went. Jack turned back to Leah. "Doc." "Jack, not tonight, please." "What is that?" She glanced down at the envelope in her hand as if she'd forgotten it was there. "Nothing." "Leah." "Jack, please. I'm really tired and I need to sleep and I can't talk about it yet." "About what?" Her eyes welled up. "I love you." Jack's whole chest went still. Those 3 words, straight out in scrubs on her porch on a Thursday night with a thick cream envelope in her left hand. Leah. "I love you, Jack, and I love Maya, and I need you to know that before we have the next conversation, because I know how it's going to sound and I don't want you to forget this part. I said it first. Before anything else, I said it first." Honey, what is it? What's in the envelope? She closed her eyes. Not tonight. Leia. Jack, please, give me one night. He stepped back, raised his hands. Okay, one night. Thank you. But Leia, tomorrow, Jack, I promise. Tomorrow I'll tell you everything. Just give me tonight. She stepped backwards into her house and closed the door. He heard the deadbolt slide. He heard her footsteps retreat into the kitchen. He stood on her porch in the dark for what felt like a long time. When he walked back across the yard, Maya was sitting on their front step with her chin in her hands. Daddy? Yeah, baby girl. Is Miss Leia okay? I don't know, sweet pea. She looked sad. I know. Can we fix it? And Jack Donovan, who had spent 22 years in the United States Navy and watched men die, and watched his own marriage end, and watched his daughter grow up faster than any child should have, to sat down on the porch step beside his little girl and put his arm around her shoulders. I don't know, Maya. I don't know if we can fix this one, but I promise you we're going to try. Maya leaned against his ribs. Daddy. Yeah, remember the picture I drew in the car when we moved? The blue house, with the sun, and the 3 people, and the question mark. I remember. I know what the question mark is now. Yeah, baby. It's Miss Leia. Jack did not answer his daughter. He could not. He just sat there on the porch of a house that was finally starting to feel like his, holding his little girl against his side, staring across the strip of dewy grass at the yellow porch light next door, where a woman in hospital scrubs was sitting alone at a kitchen table with an envelope marked with a navy blue seal. And he could already feel the way sailors feel, whether that a storm was coming. The kind a man doesn't see. The kind that comes straight up out of the water without warning. The kind that takes everything. And all he could do, sitting on that porch with his daughter's head against his side, was hold on a little tighter and wait for morning. Morning came the way it always does, whether a man is ready for it or not. Jack didn't sleep. He lay on his back with one arm under his head and watched the ceiling turn from black to gray to the soft pale color of an early Charleston summer. And at 5:15 he gave up, swung his legs out of bed, and went downstairs to make coffee. He drank 2 cups standing up at the kitchen counter. He watched the clock on the microwave tick over from 6 to 6:30 to 7. He watched Leia's house through the kitchen window. No lights. At 7:40, Maya patted down in her pajamas with her hair a mess. Daddy, are you crying? No, baby girl. Your eyes are red. Daddy didn't sleep good, that's all. Because of Miss Leia. Jack got down on one knee in the kitchen. He put both hands on his daughter's shoulders. He looked her in the eye the way his own father had taught him a long time ago to look at people when you had something hard to say. Maya, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Okay. I don't know what's happening next door. I don't know what Miss Leia is going through. But whatever happens today, whatever gets said today, whatever she tells me, you and me, we're going to handle it. Together. Like we always do. You understand? Yes, Daddy. You're not going to lose her. Maya looked up at him. Daddy, you don't know that. Out of the mouth of a 6-year-old. Jack stared at his daughter. His daughter stared back. You're right, he said finally. I don't know that, but I promise you, whatever happens, you and me are still you and me. Okay. Okay, Daddy. Go get dressed. I'll make you breakfast. Pancakes. Pancakes. The yellow kind or the black kind? The yellow kind. Today's a yellow pancake day. She scampered up the stairs. Jack went to the front window and looked out one more time. Leia's car was gone. He went cold all the way down to his boots. He dialed her number from the kitchen, straight to voicemail. He tried again. Voicemail again. He left a message in the steadiest voice he could manage. Hey Doc, just checking on you. Call me when you can. He made the pancakes on autopilot. He poured Maya's orange juice without tasting it himself. He walked her to the little community bus that took her to summer day camp at Meeting Street Elementary, and he stood at the corner of Prescott and waved until the bus turned out of sight, and then he walked straight back to his truck and drove to the shipyard and got through 6 hours of work by pure muscle memory. At 2:15 his phone rang. Leia. He pulled off Morrison Drive into a gas station parking lot and put the truck in park. Leia. Hi. Where are you? I'm home now. You weren't home this morning. I know. I drove down to Folly Beach. I sat in the parking lot. I needed to think. Can I come over? Yes. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Jack? Yeah. I'm sorry about last night. Don't do that. Don't apologize to me. Just wait for me. I'm coming. He made it in 17. She opened the door before he knocked. She'd showered and changed into a soft blue shirt, her hair still wet and combed back behind her ears. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. That scared him more than the tears. Come in, Jack. He came in. She'd made coffee. The envelope was sitting on the kitchen table. The navy blue Johns Hopkins emblem in the corner crisp and official, the flap already sliced open with a letter opener. Sit down, Jack. Leia, just tell me. Sit down. Please, I need to do this the way I've been rehearsing it in my head, or I'm going to lose my nerve. He sat. She sat across from him. She folded her hands on the table. She took a breath. 3 years ago, I applied for a fellowship. A maternal fetal medicine fellowship at Johns Hopkins. It's the most competitive one in the country. 30 people apply for every spot. I didn't think I'd get it. I didn't tell anyone I applied except my father. Okay. They called in March. They offered me a slot. I turned it down. You turned it down? I turned it down because I'd just bought the house here, because I was up for a senior position at the medical university, because I didn't want to go back to Baltimore. Jack, I grew up in Baltimore. I don't want to live there. I spent 18 years being my father's daughter in that city, and when I left I promised myself I'd never become the thing he wanted me to be. Okay. My father found out I turned it down. He was enraged. I don't know any other word for it. We had a fight. We didn't speak for 6 weeks. And then She pressed her knuckles to her mouth for a moment. He went behind my back. He called the fellowship director. He's known him for 30 years. He told them I'd made a mistake. He asked them if they would reconsider. And they did. They re-offered the position. That letter, she pointed at the envelope, came yesterday. It is a formal offer letter signed by the department chair for a 2-year fellowship beginning September 1st. Jack did not move. Leia. There's more, Jack. Okay. If I take it, it changes my career. Forever. When I come back from Hopkins, I can walk into any hospital in this country and write my own ticket. A lot of the best OB/GYNs in the field have that letterhead on their wall. It's the top of the field. It is everything I ever said I wanted before I knew what I wanted. And if you don't take it, my father called me yesterday. He told me that if I turn it down a second time, if I embarrass him a second time in front of the director of the most prestigious department in his world, he will never speak to me again. Jesus. And Jack, I don't even... She was breathing carefully now, the way a woman does when she's trying not to cry. I don't even care about him. I don't. I stopped trying to make him proud a long time ago, but what? But he's my father. Jack leaned forward, put his elbows on the table. Leia, look at me. She looked. You love what you do. Yes. You love it here. In Charleston. At your hospital. Yes. Tell me honestly, is there any part of you that wants to go back to Baltimore? Any part? She was quiet for a long time. There's a part of me, she said slowly, that's 42 years old and single and wondering if the real reason I keep saying no to Hopkins is because I'm a coward. You're not a coward. How would you know, Jack? We've known each other 7 months. It landed wrong. He knew she didn't mean it the way it sounded, but it landed wrong, and he felt it land, and he felt himself take a step backwards inside his own head, that old Navy instinct, the one that said incoming duck cover, and he couldn't stop it. You're right, he said quietly. I wouldn't. Jack? No, you're right. Jack, I didn't mean... I heard you. Jack, please don't do that. Do what? Don't go quiet on me. Don't pull away, please. He looked up at her across the table. He looked at her for a long time. Laya, I need you to listen to me, really carefully. Okay. I am a retired Navy chief. I am a single father. I live next door to you in a house that I can barely afford on my retirement plus a part-time shipyard check. I drive a 15-year-old truck. I have exactly $11,000 in savings, most of which is earmarked for Maya's braces in about 4 years. That is the entirety of what I have to offer you. Jack, I don't care about any of that. Let me finish. Okay. I grew up on a dairy farm in upstate New York. My father was a hard man who never finished high school. My mother taught 3rd grade until she died of ovarian cancer at 51. I enlisted at 18 because it was the only way out I could see. I made my career. I am proud of it. I am not ashamed of a single thing on my resume. I know. But I am not the man who stands in the way of a woman like you getting to be the doctor she was meant to be. Jack, I am not the man your father calls on the phone and brags about. I am not the man a cardiologist in Baltimore wants his 42-year-old daughter to wake up next to. Jack, stop. And I am sitting here right now thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing letting a woman like you fall in love with a broken-down sailor and a little girl with a divorce in her past? What am I doing sitting in your kitchen talking you out of going to Johns Hopkins? You are not talking me out of it. I should be talking you into it, Laya. I should be putting you in the car and driving you to the airport myself. Jack, listen to yourself. I am listening to myself, Doc. That's the problem. For the first time in 7 months, I am listening to myself, and I do not like what I'm hearing. You are panicking. Maybe I am. You are panicking because it got real. That's what's happening. Laya. No, Jack, listen. Yesterday I told you I loved you. On my front porch, in scrubs, before you'd even asked for it. Do you know how hard that was for me? Yes. No, you don't. Because I have not said those words to a man in 9 years. 9 years. I said them to you because I meant them. I said them before I told you about the letter because I didn't want you to ever think not for 1 second that the letter came first. I know. And now you are sitting in my kitchen telling me you are not enough. You are telling me you are about to do what everyone I have ever loved has eventually done, which is decide for me what's best for me and then leave before I can argue about it. Laya. Don't you dare, Jack Donovan. She stood up. She was shaking. Don't you dare do what my father does. Don't you dare stand in this kitchen and tell me what I deserve and what kind of life I'm supposed to want and which man is good enough to give it to me. You don't get to do that. Only I get to do that. Do you understand me? Laya, sit down. No. Sit down, please. She sat. Her hands were trembling on the table. He reached across and took one of them. He held it between both of his. I am sorry, he said. Jack, I am sorry. You're right. I panicked. I looked at the name Johns Hopkins on that envelope, and I saw everything I'm not, and I panicked. Jack. But listen to me, please. I need to say this one thing, and then I will stop, and then we can figure it out together. Okay. Okay. When Claire left me, when she sat me down at that table and told me she'd met somebody else, the worst part was not that she was leaving. The worst part was that for 2 years I had watched her shrink. I had watched her become smaller and quieter and sadder, and I had told myself she was fine. Because I needed her to be fine. Because my career needed her to be fine. Because Maya needed her to be fine. And she was not fine, Laya. She was drowning. And I let her drown, because it was easier for me not to see it. Jack. I swore to myself when she left that I would never do that to another woman. I would never ever stand by and watch a woman I loved shrink herself to fit a shape I found convenient. Jack, this is not that. How do you know? Because I have told you very clearly that I do not want to go, and you are not hearing me. You are so busy trying not to be Claire's husband that you are not hearing the woman in front of you right now. He closed his eyes. He let the words land one by one. He let them hit. Okay. 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 I'm sorry. Jack. I hear you. You are telling me you do not want to go. I am telling you I do not want to go. Say it one more time, so I can hold on to it. I do not want to go to Johns Hopkins. I want to stay in Charleston. I want to work at the Medical University of South Carolina. I want to cook pot roast on Sundays. I want to be the woman your 6-year-old falls asleep on the couch next to. I want to be... Her voice cracked. I want to be the question mark in her drawing. Jack's eyes flew up. What did you say? I said, Maya told you about the drawing. She showed it to me a month ago, Jack. She told me she figured it out. Oh God. Yeah. Oh God, Leia. Yeah. I don't know what to do. Nothing, Jack. Do nothing. Just sit here with me. He sat there with her. He sat there with her for a long, long time. Outside, a lawnmower started up somewhere down the block. The coffee in their cups went cold. Leia. Tell me about your father. What about him? You said if you turn this down a second time, he'll never speak to you again. Yeah. Is that a real threat? Or is that just what he says when he's angry? She thought about it. Jack, I have one brother. He lives in Portland, Oregon. He's a software engineer. My father hasn't spoken to him in 11 years. My brother married a woman my father didn't approve of. That's it. That's the entire story. 11 years. He hasn't met his own grandson. Jesus. So yes, it's a real threat. Your mother. My mother does what my father tells her to do. She has my entire life. That's a pattern I also do not intend to repeat for the record. I see. Jack. Yeah. I do not care if he never speaks to me again. I have made my peace with that. I made it a long time ago, honestly. The hard part is not the threat. The hard part is the finality of it. The hard part is knowing that the woman sitting across from her father at Easter dinner 10 years from now will not be me. I'm sorry. Don't be. I chose this. It's just going to hurt for a while. Leia. Yeah. If I'm asking too much if being with me and Maya is the thing that makes him pull the trigger. Jack, don't. I just need to know you're not... Jack, stop. You are not making him pull the trigger. He is pulling the trigger. He was going to pull it over something eventually. If it wasn't you, it would be the hospital I chose, or the house I bought, or the church I don't go to. It is what he does. It is not what I am doing. Do you hear me? I hear you. Now stop apologizing. Okay. She reached for the envelope. She picked it up. She weighed it in her hand for a moment like a stone. I'm going to turn it down on Monday, she said. I'm going to write the letter today and put it in the mail tomorrow. Leia, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because I already said no once, and I meant it. My father dragged me back to a decision I had already made. I am not going to let him pull the strings on my life anymore. I'm 42 years old, Jack. I am done with being walked back to decisions I already made. He didn't answer. She turned the envelope over and over in her hand. Jack. Yeah. Tell me to do it. What? Tell me to turn it down. I want to hear you say it. Just once. I want to know you want me here as much as I want to be here. He reached across the table. He took the envelope out of her hand. He set it down. He took both of her hands in his. Leia Bennett, turn it down. Stay. Stay with me and stay with Maya and build whatever the hell it is we're building right here on Prescott Street. I don't care what I've got. I don't care what I don't have. I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel small in your own house. She was crying now. Jack. Stay. Okay. Stay. Okay, Jack. I'm staying. They sat like that for a while. Then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Her whole body went rigid. What? It's him, Jack. Your father. My father. Don't answer. I have to. Leia. I have to, Jack. He'll fly down here if I don't. He's done it before. She swiped the screen. Hello, Daddy. Jack could not hear the voice on the other end. He could only hear it as a low, clipped, rhythmic thing, the way a storm sounds from inside a house. He watched Leia's face. He watched her jaw set. He watched her free hand curl into a fist on the table. Daddy. No, Daddy, listen. No, I'm not. Daddy, I am going to turn it down. Yes. Yes, I am. That is my decision. She closed her eyes. Yes. There is. There is someone. His name is Jack. He's... A pause. He's a retired Navy chief. He... Another pause. Longer. Yes. He has a daughter. She's 6. The longest pause yet. Leia's eyes closed began to leak tears down her cheeks. Not sad tears. These were hot. These were furious. Daddy, don't. Don't you dare say that about him. You have never met him. You don't know anything about him. He is twice the man. Whatever her father said next made her flinch like she'd been slapped. Daddy, you are not going to do that. Daddy, you cannot. He cut her off. She listened. She listened for a long time. Jack sat across the table and watched the woman he loved go completely still. When she finally hung up the phone, she set it down on the table very carefully, as if it were made of glass. Leia. She did not answer. Leia. What did he say? She looked up at him, and there was something new in her face, something he had not seen there before. Not grief, not sadness. Something older than both, something carved. Jack. Yeah. He said if I don't take the fellowship, she swallowed, he's going to make a call. A call to who? The chief of surgery at the Medical University of South Carolina, his college roommate. What? He says he's going to make sure I never work in Charleston again. He says by Monday morning I will not have a job in this state. Leia. He can do it, Jack. I promise you, he can do it. I've seen him do worse to my brother. She laughed. It was a terrible laugh. It was the sound of a woman who had just seen very clearly what kind of man her father really was. Welcome to the family sailor. Jack sat across the kitchen table and did not speak for a long moment because he was an old sailor, and old sailors know that the first thing you do in a storm is not grab the wheel. The first thing you do is hold still and listen and find out which way the water is moving. Leia. Yes. Tell me his full name. Whose? Your father's. Dr. Richard Allen Bennett. And the chief of surgery at the medical university. Dr. Patrick Halloran. Halloran. Yes. And you're telling me these two men went to medical school together. University of Pennsylvania. Class of 1975. They were roommates at the fraternity house for 3 years. My father was the best man at Dr. Halloran's wedding. Dr. Halloran was the best man at mine. I mean, would have been if I'd ever... Okay. Jack, I'm thinking. Don't do anything crazy. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I spent 22 years not doing anything crazy. I'm not about to start today. Jack. Leia, listen to me. I need you to listen. Okay, your father is a bully. You already know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I've dealt with bullies my entire career. Bullies in uniforms. Bullies with ranks. Bullies with more money and more pull than your father could dream of. And I will tell you something I learned about bullies a long time ago. What? They don't do what they threaten. Jack, you don't know him. Doc, you just told me he hasn't spoken to his own son in 11 years. You just told me he hasn't met his own grandson. You know what kind of man does that? A man who has already burned every bridge he can burn. That is not a man with leverage. That is a man with a lighter and a grudge. He can still pick up a phone. He can pick up a phone. Yes. But let's think about what that phone call actually sounds like, all right? He calls his friend. He says what? He says, my 42-year-old daughter, who is a board-certified OBGYN on your staff, is refusing to take a fellowship she already turned down 2 years ago, and I would like you to punish her for it. You think, Dr. Patrick Halloran, chief of surgery at a major research hospital, is going to fire a board-certified doctor because her daddy called and threw a tantrum? Jack, you don't know. I know bureaucracies, Leia. I have spent my entire adult life inside one. That hospital is a bureaucracy. Your contract is a bureaucracy. You are a revenue-generating physician in a system that cannot afford to lose you in a city where the maternal mortality rate is already in the papers. If your father picks up that phone, the best he gets is an awkward lunch. The worst is that Halloran hangs up and privately decides he's glad he's retiring in 2 years. Leia stared at him. How do you know he's retiring in 2 years? I don't. I'm guessing. He is, actually. See? Jack. Leia, I am not telling you your father can't hurt you. He can. He's already hurt you. But he cannot end your career in this city with one phone call. He only believes he can. And he is counting on the fact that you also believe he can. That is the whole trick. That is the whole bully. She was shaking her head slowly, but not in disagreement. More like she was clearing something. I have been afraid of that man my entire life. I know. My entire life, Jack. I know. It is very strange to hear somebody say out loud that he might be bluffing. He is bluffing. You don't know that. I know bullies, sweetheart, and I know something else. What? I know you are not alone in this kitchen anymore. She lost it then. Not dramatically. She just put her face down on her folded arms on the kitchen table, and her shoulders shook, and she made a sound that was not crying exactly, more like a sound a dog makes when it finally lies down after running for miles. Jack got up and came around to her side of the table, and knelt on the kitchen floor, and put his hand flat between her shoulder blades, and he kept it there until she stopped shaking. Doc. Can I tell you what we're going to do? Please. We are going to do this the Navy way. You understand? We are going to take this problem and we are going to break it into pieces, and we are going to handle one piece at a time. You don't have to eat the whole meal. You just have to take the next bite. All right? All right. Piece 1. You are writing that letter today, declining the fellowship. You're not doing it because he threatened you. You're doing it because you already said no once. That decision is yours. It was yours then, and it's yours now. He does not get to take that back from you. Okay. Piece 2. Tomorrow morning, before he can call Halloran, you are going to call Halloran. Her head came up. What? You are going to call the chief of surgery of your hospital, and you are going to say, Dr. Halloran, I need 15 minutes of your time this week. Some things have come up in my family that may affect my work, and I want to make sure you hear them from me first. Jack, I can't. You can. You absolutely can. You are going to walk into his office. You are going to sit across from him. You are going to tell him professional to professional that your father, his old friend, is furious that you have decided to stay in Charleston. You are going to tell him politely that your father may attempt to contact him, and you are going to tell him that you felt it was your responsibility to be the one to tell him first. Jack, Leia, listen to me. You get ahead of the bullet. That is what you do. The whole power of what your father is threatening is the surprise of it. You take the surprise away. You take the power away. By the time your father picks up the phone, Halloran will already know, and Halloran will already have decided. Because he is a human being. Leia, and human beings have pride. Halloran will already have decided that he is not going to let some retired cardiologist in Baltimore tell him how to run his department. She was staring at him now like he'd grown a second head. I've been panicking for 18 hours. I know you have. And you just walked in here and laid it out in 2 minutes. I didn't lay it out in 2 minutes. I laid it out in 22 years of watching Navy officers try to intimidate each other. It is the same game every time, Leia. The one who walks in first wins. My God, Jack. What? Nothing. Just keep talking. Piece 3. You call your father back. No, no, Jack, I'm not. Leah. I am not calling that man back tonight. Not tonight. Later this week. On your schedule, not his. When you do not apologize. You do not explain. You do not plead. You tell him calmly that you have declined the fellowship, and that you have spoken to Dr. Halloran, and that if he wishes to continue to be your father, you would be happy to continue to be his daughter. And if he does not, that is his choice, and you will miss him, but you will not spend another 42 years of your life trying to earn his love. Jack, that is the speech, Leah. You can write your own words, but that is the speech. I don't know if I can say it. You can. You already did most of it on the phone this afternoon. You stopped because he scared you. You won't stop this time. You want to know why. Why? Because this time, you're going to write it down first. And you're going to read it to me across this kitchen table until it sounds like somebody you recognize. And when you pick up that phone, I am going to be sitting in that chair right there, and I am not going to say a word. I am just going to be there. Do you understand me? She nodded. Say it, Leah. I understand. Good. He stood up. Now, where's your laptop? In the living room. Go get it. Jack. Yeah. Thank you. Don't thank me. Go get the laptop. She went. She came back. She sat down at the kitchen table. She opened the laptop. She started typing. Jack poured himself a fresh cup of coffee and stood at the counter and let her work. 45 minutes later, she turned the laptop around and slid it across to him. He read the letter. It was 2 paragraphs. It was perfect. It was polite, and it was final, and there was not 1 ounce of apology in it. That's a good letter, Leah. Yeah, that's a good letter. Print it, sign it. We'll drop it in the blue box on Calhoun Street on the way to get Maya. Okay? All right, now, before we do anything else. What? Come here. She stood up, and he pulled her into his chest, and he held her there for a long moment, with his chin on the top of her head, and he did not say a thing. I love you, he said eventually. I know. I should have said it yesterday. You said it in other ways. Yeah, but I should have said the words. I'm saying them now. I know, Jack. Okay. I love you too. They mailed the letter on their way to the bus stop. Leah walked up to the big blue USPS box on Calhoun Street, kissed the envelope just lightly, the way you'd kiss a forehead, and slid it into the slot. When the metal flap slammed shut, her whole body seemed to drop 2 inches lower, as if something very heavy had gone in with it. Jack took her hand and didn't let go. Maya's bus arrived at 4:12. When she saw the two of them standing at the corner of Prescott together, Daddy on one side, Miss Leah on the other, she ran the last 50 feet and collided with Leah's legs and wrapped both arms around her waist and wouldn't let go. You came back, Maya said, her face pressed into Leah's shirt. Jack looked down at the top of his daughter's head. He had not told Maya anything this morning beyond Miss Leah had a hard night, baby girl, we'll see her later. And yet. Yeah, honey, Leah said softly, putting her hand on Maya's hair. I came back. You're not going anywhere. It was not a question. No, sweetheart, I'm not going anywhere. Pinky promise. Pinky promise. They hooked pinkies right there on the corner of Prescott and Spring in front of God and a mailman and a very confused border collie on a leash across the street. Jack had to look away. Monday morning came fast. Leah called the chief of surgery's assistant at 7 a.m. This is Dr. Bennett. I need 15 minutes with Dr. Halloran this week. It's a family matter that may affect the department. Could you tell him it's personal and fairly urgent? The assistant called back at 7:40. Dr. Halloran had a window at 4:30 that afternoon. Leah put the phone down on the kitchen table. Okay? Okay. Okay, I have 4:30 today. Good. I'm going to throw up. No, you're not. I am Jack. Doc, look at me. She looked at him. You have delivered how many babies in your career? I don't know. Somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000. 2 and 3,000. Right. You have told fathers their wives were hemorrhaging. You have lost a patient and walked out into a waiting room and told a man his wife was gone. You have done the hardest conversations in medicine over and over for 15 years. Yes. This is a conversation about your schedule. Jack, that is an insane way to frame this. Is it? Yes, Jack, that is okay. Maybe it's not insane. Maybe that's actually helpful. Keep going. It's a conversation about your schedule. You are not asking him for a favor. You are not begging for your job. You are giving him information, as a courtesy, one doctor to another. You don't owe anyone an apology, Leia. You just owe him the truth, and you owe it first. First. Jack? Yeah. I need you to be here when I get home tonight. I'll be here. Whatever happens, whether it goes great or whether it goes badly, I need you to be on that porch. I'll be on the porch. Okay. She went to work. Jack took Maya to the aquarium that afternoon. He had planned it for weeks. He had not planned to be out of his mind the entire time watching his phone pretending to care about sea turtles. But that was how it went. Maya asked him 7 times why he kept looking at his phone, and the 7th time he finally put it in his back pocket and left it there, and he looked his daughter in the eye and he said, "I'm sorry, baby girl. I'm all yours." And she said, "Good, because the jellyfish are about to eat." At 4:30, while Jack was watching a moon jelly pulse its way through a blue tank with his daughter on his hip, Leia was walking down a long carpeted hallway on the 3rd floor of the administrative wing of the Medical University of South Carolina, toward a door with a brass plaque that read, "Dr. Patrick F. Halloran, Chief of Surgery." She knocked. "Come in." She came in. The conversation that followed, she told Jack about later. She told it to him on the porch with a glass of wine in her hand while Maya slept upstairs and the cicadas droned in the Charleston heat. So I sat down, and he said, "Leia, is everything all right?" And I said, "Dr. Halloran, I need to tell you something and I want you to hear it from me before you hear it from my father." And Jack, you should have seen his face. He went very, very still. And he said very carefully, "What has your father done, Leia?" And that was when I knew. Knew what? Knew that he already knew who my father was, as a person, not just as a friend, as a person, and that my father had been a problem for him before. I don't know how. I didn't ask. But Jack, he already knew. Jesus. So I told him everything. I told him about the fellowship, and about the second offer, and about turning it down a second time, and about my father threatening to call him. And I told him straight to his face, "Dr. Halloran, I am not asking you to protect me. I am not asking you to do anything. I am telling you because I believe it is my professional responsibility to tell you before he calls. You can do what you want with that information." And what did he say? He sat there for a long time. I thought I had ruined everything. And then he said, "And I will remember this until the day I die," he said, "Dr. Bennett, in 29 years of friendship with your father, I have been dreading the day he asked me for a favor like this. I am glad you came to me first. It makes what I have to say to him much, much simpler." Oh my God. He said, "I want you on my staff for as long as you will stay. I will handle your father. Go back to your work." Leia. Yeah. Leia. She set her wine glass down. She was crying. Not hard, just leaking. Like somebody had finally pulled a cork. He said, "Go back to your work." Jack, do you understand what he did? I understand. He took it. He took it. He took the whole weight of it off me. I walked into that office carrying my father on my back, and I walked out with my shoulders empty. That's a good man, Doc. That's a good man. Yeah, and my father, God, I haven't even told you the last part. My father called Dr. Halloran on Tuesday morning. Halloran's assistant called me Tuesday afternoon and said, "Dr. Bennett, just so you know, your father phoned the office this morning." The conversation was brief. Dr. Halloran asked me to tell you that it went exactly the way he said it would. Brief. Brief. What does your father do now, Leia? She took a long drink of wine. Now my father, if I am reading him correctly, and I have been reading him for 42 years, goes into a silence that may last the rest of his life. He will not call. He will not write. My mother will call in about 3 months and try to guilt me back. I will not go, and that will be that. That will be the whole of it. Are you okay? Ask me in 5 years, Jack. Are you okay tonight? She looked at him for a long time. Tonight, I'm going to sit on this porch next to you. Tonight my patient is fine. My 6-year-old neighbor is asleep. And the man who has bossed me around since I was 6 years old can't boss me around anymore. Tonight, yeah. Tonight I'm okay. She reached for his hand across the arm of the rocking chair. He gave it. Jack? Yeah. I want to tell you one more thing. All right. When I was driving home from Halloran's office today, I cried so hard I had to pull over on Calhoun Street. And I sat there in my car, and I was not crying about my father. I was not crying about the fellowship. I was not crying about losing anything. What were you crying about? I was crying because I have been in this city for 4 years, and in 4 years I have been to exactly 3 dinner parties and 0 weddings, and I have not had a single Thanksgiving that I didn't spend on call. And I realized that I have been waiting my whole adult life to live the part where I'm allowed to belong to people. And I thought it would happen in Baltimore, and it didn't. I thought it would happen in residency, and it didn't. I thought it would happen when I made attending, and it didn't. And then, one Tuesday night, a Navy chief with a moving truck walked across the grass because he heard me crying on my front porch, and he asked if I was all right. And his 6-year-old drew me into a picture. Leah, I'm not going anywhere, Jack. I know. I'm not going to Johns Hopkins. I'm not going to Baltimore. I'm not going anywhere my father tries to point me. I know. I am staying right here on Prescott Street until somebody carries me out in a box. Okay. Okay. They sat on the porch for a long time after that. Neither of them said anything else. They didn't need to. Upstairs in the little bedroom with the new curtains, a 6-year-old girl was sleeping with her arms wrapped around a stuffed rabbit, and somewhere in the quiet between one breath and the next, in a house that had finally started to feel like home. Jack Donovan realized that for the first time since Claire had sat him down at a kitchen table in Norfolk, Virginia, he was no longer in any corner of himself, waiting for the next bad thing to happen. He was instead waiting for morning. Which was, he understood now, a completely different kind of waiting. A man's kind. A built kind. The kind you earn. The next morning came the way Jack had been waiting for it to come. Slow. Yellow. Quiet. Maya was the first one up. She was always the first one up, and she padded down the stairs in her pink nightgown with the little rabbit pattern on the hem, and she stopped at the bottom of the stairs because she saw Leah sitting at the kitchen counter in one of Jack's old Navy t-shirts drinking coffee. Miss Leah. Morning, Maya Bear. Did you sleep here? I did. On the couch. Leah smiled into her coffee. Yes, sweetheart, on the couch. Why didn't you sleep at your house? Because your daddy and I were talking very late, and by the time we finished I was too tired to walk 10 feet. Oh. Is that okay? Maya considered it the way a 6-year-old considers the great questions of the day, seriously, with her whole face. I think so. Yes, that's okay with me. Thank you. Can I have Cheerios? You can have anything you want, honey. Can I have Cheerios with banana? Yes. Can I have Cheerios with banana and chocolate chips? Absolutely not. Can I have Maya? Fine, just banana. Jack came down the stairs 5 minutes later, unshaven in a t-shirt and sweats, and found his daughter sitting at the counter next to the woman he loved, explaining to her very seriously the difference between a regular ladybug and an Asian lady beetle. He stood in the doorway and watched them, and he thought this. This is what the rest of it looks like. Daddy Miss Leah didn't know ladybugs bite. Miss Leah delivers babies for a living baby girl. She probably doesn't have a lot of time to look up ladybugs. That's what she said. Well, she's right. Leah turned her head and looked up at him from her stool. Morning, sailor? Morning, Doc. Coffee's on. I see that. Maya has informed me that we're going to the zoo today. Oh, is that so? Apparently it was decided last week. It was decided last week, Daddy. You said yes. Did I say yes? You said yes on Tuesday. Well, okay. Then we're going to the zoo. It was a Saturday. It was the first Saturday of the rest of his life, and he did not yet know it. But he would remember it years and years later, when his hair had gone gray at the temples, and Maya was starting college, and Leia's hands had a few of their own quiet lines around the knuckles. He would remember this Saturday morning in this kitchen, with the yellow sunlight coming through the window over the sink, as the morning that a broken thing in him finally closed up and started healing for good. They went to the Riverbank Zoo. Maya rode on his shoulders for half of it. Leia took a picture of the two of them in front of the giraffe enclosure, and Maya made Jack promise to print it out and put it on the refrigerator, and when they got home that night, he did. That picture stayed on that refrigerator for 11 years. The summer bled into fall. The fall bled into winter, which in Charleston meant the leaves turned reluctantly, and the air got crisper, and people started wearing sweaters to football games. In October, Leia's father, Dr. Richard Bennett, did not call for her birthday. He did not send a card. He did not send an email. Leia had been bracing for the silence for months, and when it came, it was quieter than she had expected, and somehow that was worse, not because it hurt more, but because it took up so little room. An entire father, gone, just like that, just a silence where a voice used to be. She cried about it twice, both times on Jack's porch, both times with his arm around her shoulders. Both times she got up afterwards and washed her face and went back to work and delivered another baby. Her mother called in January just like Leia had predicted. The conversation was short and painful and full of small guilt. Your father is not doing well. Leia, he's retreated into his study. He doesn't come down for dinner anymore, and Leia listened to all of it, and then she said very gently, Mama, I love you. I will always love you. But I am not going to carry him on my back anymore. If he wants to come down for dinner, he can come down for dinner. That is not my problem to solve. Her mother hung up on her. Leia drove home. Jack was making spaghetti. Maya was doing homework at the kitchen table, which had over the course of the fall become not just Jack's kitchen table anymore. There were 3 placemats on it now. There was a school permission slip with Leia's signature on it, pinned under a magnet on the refrigerator. She had been added as a backup emergency contact in October at Maya's insistence, because as Maya had put it, Daddy, sometimes your phone is off at the shipyard, and then what? Leia walked in and set her keys in the bowl by the door, the new bowl. The little pottery bowl she had brought over in November, and she didn't say a word, and Jack looked up from the stove and saw her face and said, Spaghetti in 20 minutes. Okay. Go change. Okay. She went upstairs into the bedroom, that was by this point about 70% hers, and she changed out of her scrubs, and when she came back down, her eyes were red, but she was not crying. Maya Bear, how's the homework? I hate fractions. Everybody hates fractions. It's not just you. Daddy said that. Daddy's right. Miss Leia, did something bad happen today? Leia glanced at Jack across the kitchen. He just kept stirring the sauce the way a man does when he knows the moment belongs to somebody else. Yeah, honey, something sad happened. Was it a patient? No, sweetheart, this time it wasn't. Was it your mommy? Leia crouched down by the kitchen table. How did you know that? You always get that face after your mommy calls. I have a face. Yeah, you have a face. Oh, Maya. It's okay, Miss Leia. I'm sad about my mommy too sometimes. And Daddy says it doesn't go all the way away, but it gets quieter. Leia closed her eyes for a moment. Your daddy is a very smart man, Maya. I know. Jack at the stove pretended he wasn't listening. That spring on a Tuesday in April, Jack got down on one knee in the backyard of the little house on Prescott Street. He didn't do it fancy. He didn't do it the way they do it in the movies. He did it on a Tuesday afternoon while Maya was at a friend's house, and Leia had just come home from a 12-hour shift, and he had a ring in his pocket that he had been carrying around for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment. And finally that Tuesday, he had looked at her standing barefoot in his grass, holding a tomato plant in a plastic pot she'd bought at the hardware store on her way home. A tomato plant, for God's sake. And he had thought, there is no right moment. There is just this woman in this grass with that tomato plant, and if I don't ask her right now, I am an idiot. Leah. Yeah. Put the tomato down. What? Put the tomato down, Doc. Jack? Why are you... Just put it down. She put it down. She looked at him. He was already on one knee. Oh my God. Leah Bennett. Oh my God, Jack. Will you? Yes. I didn't... Yes. Leah. Let me ask the question. Okay, ask it. Leah Bennett. Will you marry me? Will you marry me, and will you let me spend the rest of my life making sure you are never the smallest thing in any room you walk into? Yes. Yeah. Yes, Jack. 100 times yes. He slid the ring on her finger. It was not a big ring. It was a small ring. It was the ring he could afford on a shipyard inspector's salary plus a Navy pension. And she looked at it the way a woman looks at a thing she has wanted her whole life. Then she sat down in the grass beside him. And he sat down next to her. And they looked at each other like two people who could not believe their luck. Jack? Yeah. We need to tell Maya. I was thinking about that. When she gets home. When she gets home. Together. Together. Maya got home at 4:30. They sat her down at the kitchen table. She looked back and forth between them, 6 years old, going on 40, and she said, before either of them could speak, "Are you getting married?" Jack stared at his daughter. How do you... Daddy, you have been weird for 3 weeks. Oh my God. Are you... Yeah, baby girl, yeah, we are. Maya thought about it for a long moment. Then she said very solemnly, I want to be the flower girl, and I want to wear a dress that has pockets. Pockets. Pockets, Daddy. I'm 6. I have stuff I need to carry. Leah laughed so hard she cried. They were married 4 months later in August in the backyard of the little house on Prescott Street. They kept it small. Jack's brother Danny flew in from Phoenix with his wife and their 2 teenagers. Leah's brother flew in from Portland with his wife, and the grandson, Dr. Richard Bennett, had never met a 7-year-old boy named Noah, who met Maya in the hallway the morning of the wedding and was best friends with her by lunch. There were about 30 people in total. The flowers were from the Harris Teeter on King Street because Leah had said very firmly that she was not spending $400 on peonies when $400 could buy Maya a year of ballet lessons. The photographer was a young woman named Kelsey from the Medical University who did weddings on the side. The cake was a sheet cake from Publix with buttercream frosting, and the top tier said "Congratulations, Jack and Leah" in blue icing. Leah's mother did not come. Leah had not invited her. She had thought about it for a week. Jack had watched her think about it sitting on the porch with a yellow legal pad in her lap. Writing and crossing out, writing and crossing out. And finally, she had put the pen down and said, "No." She made her choice. I am not going to carry her ambivalence through the most important day of my life. Jack had said, "Whatever you decide, Doc." She had decided no. And when the day came, and Leah walked down the little aisle they had set up between the rows of folding chairs in the grass in a simple ivory dress she had bought on sale at a boutique on King Street, there was nobody to give her away. She walked alone. She had said the week before, "Jack, my father didn't raise me. My mother didn't protect me. Nobody gave me to me. I gave me to me. I am walking myself down that aisle, and I want you at the other end of it." And so that August afternoon, under a Charleston sky that had the good manners not to rain, Dr. Leah Bennett walked herself down an aisle between 30 folding chairs toward a Navy chief, who was for the first time in his life wearing a suit he had paid for himself, and who was crying in a way that no amount of military training had prepared him for. Maya walked in front of her, pockets full of rose petals. When Leah got to the end of the aisle, she handed her bouquet to Maya. Then she looked at Jack. "Hi, sailor." "Hi, Doc." "Ready?" "Ready." They said their vows. They said the words. Leia's brother, who had become over the months a kind of long-distance ally, texting Leia in Morse code bursts about the weather in Portland, and their shared father officiated the ceremony. He was not ordained in any formal way. He had signed up for something on the internet. Nobody cared. When he said, "By the power vested in me by the internet and the great state of South Carolina," everyone laughed, including Jack, who was not sure he had laughed at his own wedding the first time around. And when Leia's brother said, "You may kiss the bride," Jack leaned down and he held Leia's face in both of his calloused hands, and he kissed her the way a man kisses a woman who has chosen him when she did not have to. The reception was in the backyard. Maya danced with her new cousin Noah under a string of fairy lights Jack had hung from the oak tree the week before. Somebody Jack never figured out who had brought a karaoke machine. His brother Danny sang a truly criminal version of a Garth Brooks song. Leia danced with Dr. Patrick Halloran, who had shown up in a blue seersucker suit with his wife Margaret, and who had presented Leia earlier that evening with a small wrapped box that turned out to contain a fountain pen with her new name engraved on it. Dr. Leia Donovan Bennett, and who, when she had cried over it, had only said gruffly, all right, Doc. Cut that out. This is a wedding, not a chart review." At 11 p.m., after most of the guests had left after Maya had fallen asleep on the couch in her flower girl dress, with her head in her aunt's lap, Jack stood in the backyard with a bottle of beer in his hand, and Leia came up behind him and slipped her arms around his waist. "Sailor." Are you crying again?" "No." "You're crying." "I'm not crying." "You've cried 4 times today, Jack." "I've cried twice." "4, Jack. I counted." "Fine. 4. She laughed. She pressed her cheek against his shoulder blade. "Look at what we did." "I know." "Look at it, Jack." He looked. The lights in the oak tree. The folding chairs in the grass. His daughter asleep on the couch through the back window. Danny and his wife still on the patio, eating the last of the sheet cake with plastic forks, talking to Leia's brother about a fishing trip they were planning for the fall. "Yeah, Doc, I see it. We built this. We built this." "Jack?" "Yeah, I want to have one." He turned. "One what?" "Don't make me say it, Jack." "Leia." "I'm 42. The door is closing. I know. I deliver babies. I know better than anyone on this block. But I want to try, Jack. I want to try for one. With you." He set the beer bottle down on the grass. He took her face in his hands. "Leia Donovan Bennett." "Yeah." "We will try." "Yeah. Whatever happens, we will try. And whatever happens, we will be okay." "Yeah." "Yeah." They tried. And a year and 4 months later, on a cold December morning at the Medical University of South Carolina, where the nurses on the labor and delivery floor knew Dr. Bennett by name and brought her ice chips, without being asked, Leia gave birth to a boy. They named him Samuel Thomas Donovan. Samuel after Jack's father, the hard old dairyman from upstate New York, who had not lived to see this. Thomas after Leia's grandmother's husband, the one who had taught her grandmother to make pot roast. Maya, who was by then almost 8, was allowed in the room 20 minutes after delivery. She had begged for this privilege for months, and Leia had said yes, and the nurses had bent the rules because Maya was Dr. Bennett's daughter, and that was the end of the discussion. Maya came in with her hair in 2 braids and her eyes huge, and she walked up to the hospital bed very slowly, and she looked down at the little red-faced thing in her mother's arms, and she said, "Oh, Maya Bear, this is your brother. He's so little. He's 7 pounds 4 ounces, sweetheart. That's pretty big, actually. Can I hold him?" "Of course you can hold him." Maya sat down in the chair by the bed, and Leia put Samuel in her arms, and Maya looked at her little brother for a long, quiet moment, and then she looked up at Jack, who was standing at the foot of the bed trying not to cry for the 5th time that morning, and she said, "Daddy, look, now there's 4 of us." Jack could not speak. Leia could not speak. Maya looked back down at her brother. She stroked a finger very gently down the side of his face, and she said to nobody in particular, "The question mark is done, Daddy." The whole picture is full now. 12 years later, Jack Donovan, 60 years old, gray at the temples, retired for the second time, now from the shipyard, would stand in the back of a high school auditorium and watch his 18-year-old daughter Maya walk across a stage and accept a full scholarship to the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis. Leia, 54, and still practicing, still delivering babies though, now only 2 days a week, with the other 3 dedicated to teaching at the medical school, would be crying beside him. Samuel, 12 years old, would be holding his mother's hand, still small enough to do so without embarrassment. Dr. Patrick Halloran, retired for 10 years, would be in the third row with his wife Margaret, because he had become somewhere along the way the grandfather neither Jack's father nor Leia's father had lived or chosen to be, Leia's mother. Dr. Bennett's widow Richard had passed quietly in a Baltimore hospital 4 years earlier of a heart attack he had seen coming and refused to treat, would be sitting on Leia's other side, holding Maya's graduation program in both hands. She had come back into Leia's life slowly, in the years after her husband's death, and Leia had let her come back slowly with conditions. She had never met her grandson Samuel until he was 6 years old. But she had met him. All of them that afternoon would watch Maya walk. And Jack Donovan, the man who had once stood in an empty living room in a house he did not yet own, holding a cardboard box, and unable to find the scissors, would put his arm around the woman who had come to his door one August night with an egg casserole, and he would pull her in tight against his ribs, and he would whisper into her hair, "Look what we built, Doc." And she would whisper back, "Look what we built, Sailor." And that was the whole of it. That was the whole of the life they made together on a short street in Charleston, South Carolina, the life that had started very quietly on a Tuesday night, with a knock on a screen door and the sound of a woman crying softly on a front porch next door. A life that no letter from Baltimore, no fellowship in Maryland, no threat from a cardiologist in a glass office, no doubt in a broken sailor's chest, had been able to take from them. Because some families are given, and some families are chosen. And the ones that are chosen, the ones that are chosen against the odds, against the pressure, against the fear, against the men who try to decide other people's lives for them. Those are the families that last. Jack Donovan and Leia Bennett built a family. They built it on a patch of grass between 2 porches on Prescott Street. They built it with a casserole dish and a pot roast and a 6-year-old's drawing of a question mark. They built it with one hand held across a kitchen table on a night somebody lost a patient. They built it with a letter dropped into a blue mailbox on Calhoun Street. They built it with a pinky promise on a corner in front of a confused border collie. They built it, and it held. It held through every storm that came for it. It is holding still.